Welcome to There is a Method to the Madness. My name is Rob Maxwell, and I'm an exercise physiologist and personal trainer. I'm the owner of Maxwell's fitness programs, and I've been in business since 1994. The purpose of this podcast is to get to the real deal of what really works, and most importantly, why it works, and why some things may not work and you're wasting your time. Today, I'm going to talk all about economy of motion and doing all things we do mechanically with our bodies the right way. This is a must listen for everybody. All right. Before I get to that, let me thank Jonathan and Lynn Gilden of the Gilden Group at Realty Pros. They are committed to providing the finest level of customer service, and they have the sales and all the reviews to back it up. So if you have any real estate needs, please give them a shout at 386-451-2412. All right, so let's talk a little bit about economy of motion. First, let me explain what that is. So as I've said before, everything in life is economical. There is energy spent. No matter what, there's energy delivered, there's energy unspent. Everything comes down to energy. So economy of motion essentially means how are you spending your energy, and are you as economical as you should be to basically lessen whatever load that you're trying to do. So in running terms, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because not everybody that listens is a runner, but it does apply here and it's a good way to explain it. There are really only three ways you can physiologically improve your performance with running. That is your VO2 max, which is your maximum amount of oxygen your body can deliver in a minute, and the higher the better. That doesn't have a very good training rate. I mean, most studies show 10 to 15% you can improve upon. That's not a whole lot. The other one is called OBLA, or onset of blood lactic acid accumulation, and sometimes that's represented in the anaerobic threshold. And what that means is that's the point you go from aerobic to anaerobic. The further you can push that window, the more fit you are. So in other words, if you can push it all the way to 90% of your maximum and you're still aerobic, you're going to outrun most people in an endurance event. That has a very high training rate. So that's like a 50% training rate. So that's something we can really improve upon. But the one that you can really make the most gains on is what is called the economy of motion. And so many people don't get it wrong. Like they know, or don't get it right. They know that when they, or I hope they know, I would assume they know. I shouldn't make assumptions, right? But we go to the gym and form matters, or we should know form matters, and we try to do things correctly, right? But when people run often or they walk, they really don't think about it. They put one foot in front of the other, and they're not really thinking if there is a right way. There is a right way to reserve our economy of motion so we can expend less energy doing what we are doing. So runners who run a lot understand that, and they have really good form. One reason is they work on it, and sometimes it's easier to have better form when we have the body type for it, for sure. But running economy can be improved upon. So if you take really long strides, for example, and I'm talking about endurance running, if you take really long strides, you are costing yourself so much more energy than you would if you're taking short, choppy strides. The reason is because the more you lengthen your stride, the more you're actually hitting the brakes every time that you land. And there's not as much bounce to your step. And remember, we like bounce. We like energy in that bounce. You're going to get less bounce with longer strides and more braking. So that's not very economical, right? That's like driving down the road with your brakes on. that's not going to be very economical if you're thinking about reserving your fuel, right? The other thing they'll do is they'll have the wrong tilt to their spine. If they're not slightly leaning forward, then once again, you're braking more because you're back on your heels. The most economical runner learns to keep everything close to their body, including their elbows, including their arm swing. Their arm swing is not over-exaggerated because they're not wasting energy. They're tilted forward, and it's like they're running downhill, even if you're not, because you are trying to basically fall into the next step. So they're using gravity, they're using physics, they're using bounce to try to do all they can to be more economical. Okay? So that's it with running. Now, I had a question today. They said, I saw somebody cutting their lawn and they just look like they're going to get hurt. And I know you can't see me, but they were showing me how they had their arms completely locked out and they were bent way forward at the spine and they're pushing the lawnmower. And they said, talk about that. So that's what propagated this podcast today, because that's economy of motion. That's inefficient. Not only is it potentially going to cause an injury, and over time almost definitely will, but it's not economical either. You're making your life harder by doing that. So, part of economy of motion is simply physics. And if you studied physics at all in high school or college, you may remember the lever systems. So basically, the lever systems state that anything further away from your body is going to be more work. So when you see somebody pushing that mower with their arms locked out because they think that's what they need to do to drive their legs, I guess that's what they're thinking. I mean, it's just so awkward. They have to be thinking that. They can't be doing it because it feels good. But if they're doing that, that's the opposite of what the levers teach us. We should keep everything close. So really, you should be walking into it with your hips touching the arms of the lawnmower, and you're simply pushing with your legs and you're keeping your spine erect. So in everything we do, there's an economical way to do things. And if we understood that everything should be as kept close to our body as we can to make things easier when we're trying to improve the economy of anything that we're doing, then we can understand it without basically having to be taught how to do everything. Picking up a box, right? That's an economy of motion thing. So many people do it incorrectly. They get their feet real spread out, so they can bend over more, which is also not very economical. So they're using the spine muscles, and then the box might be far away. I don't know. I mean, I just see people pick things up in very, very awkward ways. It's not very economical, but the person who's been taught knows how to walk up to it, get as close as they can to it, keep their feet about hip width apart, because that's the most economical way to keep our feet. They bend down from the hips and not the spine, but from the hips and the knees. They keep their chest erect and they lift it up because they're trying to use the most economical muscles they can, which are going to be your glutes and thighs and not your lower back, which is a small muscle and it's pretty weak. So we see it in all things. One of my clients who started with me years and years ago, he came to me for a back issue. He had some back pain. He had some really bad sciatica. And he was going to a chiropractor, and he got really a lot better. And the chiropractor referred him to me because he knows me, because he said, you're good. You just now really need to learn how to strengthen the right muscles. And that's what we worked on. And I've talked about him before, but, I'm assuming everybody listens. So that's, stupid of me. So I will just say it again. So after just a few months, his back was pretty much better. It was a pretty easy fix with him because he was, number one, he really wanted to be better and he did everything he could to be better. And we did the right thing, so he got stronger. But I bring this up because one of the things that I always did with him early on, and I still do, was if he picked up a dumbbell incorrectly for something else, maybe he's going to do a chest fly or something, I would, give him the, wrong, no, and he would, oh, that's right. And he would go back and he would work on picking it up incorrectly, even if it's a lighter load. And it really reinforced in him how he needs to be vigilant all the time about how to pick something up. because if we're not, we could get hurt. So he would walk back, he would go, and he wanted that. He didn't want me to be soft on him that way. He would walk back, he would get close to the dumbbell, he would squat down using his hips and knees, he would keep his chest up, he would pick it up, and it was just this constant reminder. That is economy of motion. And economy of motion can't be stressed enough how important it is on everything that we do. Now, if you want to make things harder, you think, well, why would I want to do that? Well, when we train, we want to make things harder, right? I mean, we don't want to make things harder to the point we get hurt. That's not what I'm talking about. So we don't go, oh, I'm going to pick everything up in the gym with straight knees and just, no, that's not what I mean. What I mean is that if we understand that the lever systems say that the closer we keep everything to our body, the more economical that we're going to be, then it's the opposite of that if we want to train something. Here is a classic example we'll see in the gym a lot. If you go to any gyms, you'll know that the lateral raise, the shoulder side raise, lateral raise, whatever you call it, you will see like most muscle heads, so to say, I hate to say it, I'm sure I've been called it, but they're the ones most notorious for this. And then people trying to get strong to replicate it because they think that they know. And, maybe they do know, but maybe they just don't care. But what you'll see them do is they'll keep their arms instead of straight, which again increases the lever system, which makes it harder. When I mean straight, I mean they lock their arms out, right? What they're going to do is bend their elbows to 90 degrees. Now, in their mind, they think, oh, this, changes the joint action, which means they're doing it right. Well, that's not true. It doesn't change the joint action. So a joint action means what is that joint supposed to do with the bone? And in the case of side raises, the humerus is the bone that's being directly moved. And the humerus is the bone of the upper body. So that is supposed to go into what we call abduction, which is straight up. That's what it's supposed to do. It doesn't matter if your elbows are bent or your elbows are straight. It's harder if your elbows are straight. It's easier if it's bent. Does not change what you're trying to do. So then why do they bend their elbows? Because then they can use more weight. It's just that simple. I mean, it's not bad. It's just you can also do half the weight or a third of the weight or whatever and keep your arms straight and do it. And a lot of times we have better form when we keep them straight because we know what we're trying to do, which is just go straight up. So they bend their elbows because they can use more weight. So many times I've had people do side raises and they're going to grab 25 or 30 pounds. This is when I don't know them very well. And they'll start to do a set and I'll go, oh, okay, that's cool. That doesn't look too bad. But here, let me hand you these 10s and do them. They'll think, yeah, okay, 10s. I'm like, no, do 10s. But straighten your arms out all the way and do the same thing you were doing, but now with straight arms, and tell me if it's super easy like you think. And of course it's not, because essentially you have doubled the load by doubling the length. If you went from 45 to 90 degrees, you've doubled the distance, right? So of course it's harder. So that's another example of economy of motion. If you're in a contest, which I don't know on what planet there would be a lateral raise contest, but potentially there could be, then yeah, it makes sense to bend the elbows and get the advantage because you're trying to make the economy of motion go in your favor. But if you're trying to get stronger, why are you doing that? And the same is said for every exercise you can do. I mean, a dumbbell fly is going to be a lot easier if you bend your elbows significantly. It's going to be a lot harder if you keep it straighter. So, I mean, everything is going to come down to that. When we're competing or we're trying to protect ourselves from injury or we're trying to do anything longer, then we're going to want to keep the economy of motion in our benefit as much as we can. So economy of motion is going to impact everything that we do, from working in the gym, from running, and yes, even cycling. So just very brief on cycling, you're going to be more economical if you're more aerodynamic. You're going to be more economical if you have a faster cadence versus a slower cadence. You're going to be more economical if you're pulling up on the pedal using your hamstrings. So this really is true in everything that you do. And naturally, it's true in swimming as well. Now, that's cardio, and even walking, you're going to be more economical if you keep everything close, if you keep your elbows slightly bent and close to your body, if you take shorter, choppier strides versus over lengthening your stride, everything. And then we get to the gym, and I already told you how in the gym, economy of motion really matters. I say all the time, form is everything. Well, that's part of form. It's being more economical or less economical if we're trying to get stronger. And now let's finish just with the ADLs. I gave you the lawn mowing scenario, but it's in everything. We should be more economical and think about this as we go. Give yourself little cues. I mean, how many times do we all walk around in oblivion like we have no idea what we're doing? I mean, half the time we're so unfocused, we're not thinking about anything that we're doing, right? But it can matter just getting out of your car, like be more economical. Keep your legs, keep your arms, keep your hips close. Be more economical in everything that you do. Be more aware. Be more conscious of everything that you're doing. If you are shopping at Publix or Target or Aldi's or wherever you happen to shop and there happens to be heavier things on the bottom shelf, be economical when you lift things. Be economical when you push your shopping cart. Like, do everything you can to be economical, And when you go to the gym, I don't want to pick on that again, but it's important. Like, leave your ego at the door. You're not there to demonstrate strength. You're there to build strength. So don't necessarily make everything easier by taking advantage of the lever system, especially when we're talking upper body. Make it more challenging. Leave you with a little funny story on that. There used to be this guy that I cycled with, and he really got it. Like, if you've ever biked, that if you've ever biked like competitively or with groups, like group of road riders, that like the ego is so thick that, you can cut it with a knife. And, ego doesn't always mean confidence, especially how I use the word. It just means, everybody's got their chest bowed up and they're trying to prove things to everybody. I mean, it's one of the most dynamic places you're going to see the ego is in a group ride. It's not a lot of fun if you're simply trying to better yourself. It could be, but, you just got to ignore some of that stuff. But anyway, people will go to it like it's the race of the week. And if they don't race, they go to it like it's the race of the week. And they'll have on their aero helmets and they'll have their tires pumped to maximum 140 PSI or whatever it can take. And they're just ready to rock and roll and race you every step of the way, which, I used to kind of say, I would say jokingly, but maybe not. Maybe a little biting comments like, why don't you sign up for this race coming up and do that there, and oftentimes the people that are racing and training are not racing, but I guess that's neither here nor there, or it probably is here nor there. It probably has a lot to do with this. But anyway, on the funny story, there was this guy we trained with, his name was Chuck, and he was a really good road rider. He didn't race, but he was a really good road rider. And he would wear like bulkier jerseys. He would deflate his tires to an extent, like not unsafely, but like maybe down to 80 where they're rideable, safely rideable, but you don't have as much bounce. He refused to use his aero bars because aero bars are where you put your elbows on it so you can break the wind if you happen to have a bike that's geared for that, because some triathletes and time trial people do. But he wouldn't use them. He wouldn't even have them. He did have them, but he took them off his bike because he didn't have a tri bike he had where you can take the aero bars on and off. And when he was riding with the group, like, he refused to because he wanted it harder. He made himself wider when he went up front because he wanted it harder. And that's a dude with like not a big ego. Like, that's somebody who's like, I'm going to take advantage of training and make this as hard as possible. That way when I race, if I do race, or if I race myself, because I think he would do his own little solo time trials, then he is going to improve. I mean, that's just a great example how we can use the lever system and economy of motion to our advantage. If you're racing and there's money on the line or something important to you on the line, then by all means do everything economically sound. If you're trying not to get hurt by picking things up, by all means do everything economically sound. But if you're trying to get better, then maybe think about that and go in the other direction. Not unsafely. I'm talking about when you're lifting or you're running. All right. Same thing with running. I mean, do you need your racing flats and your race shoes when you're out training with your buddies? I mean, that's a pretty clear-cut sign that you're not there to train, you're there to race, right? I mean, why would you wear your most economical shoes on a training run? That's a little silly, right? So think about those things. And the opposite of silly is great and educated and simply the best, as in Overhead Door of Daytona Beach. They are the best garage door company in the area, bar none. I know Jeff and Zach Hawk, the owners. I'm happy to call them friends and colleagues, and please give them a shout at overheaddooردaytona.com. Please remember to follow the show on Spotify and or Apple Pod or wherever you listen to it, whether it be YouTube videos now, whatever. It really helps me. Please download the episodes and please send them to your friends. All right. Until next time, be Max Fit and be Maxwell.